Hey guys, welcome back. So today's video is going to be a little different. I don't really know where to start. I'm just going to start from the beginning of everything that happened. Oh, okay. Everything's fine with Kendra and I, by the way. I don't want y'all thinking that something happened like between us or anything. We're fine. It's just something happened with me within like the past month, and we just thought it'd be better, I guess, for me just to explain from my perspective of everything that happened. So I guess just starting from the beginning, exactly 1 month and 1 day ago was the day that my house got flooded. I live in the valley of Texas, as you all know, and last month we had a pretty bad, it wasn't even a hurricane, it was just like rain, but it was the most that had ever fallen here, I guess. And my house is like raised up as it is, but, and like we never thought water would ever get to that point of like going into the house, but it rose up that high. So it ended up going into the house, and I was asleep when my mom woke me up and she said, like, Alyssa, water's coming into the house. And so we started freaking out, and we went to the different rooms and started picking up like as much things as we could. Oh gosh. There's just so much that I would want to say. Like, I wouldn't be able to explain everything that happened through that process, even though I want to, because then you're looking at like a 45 or an hour long video or more, and I doubt anyone's gonna sit through that. So so basically we went around and started picking up as many things as we could off the floor, and it was so weird. The water was coming in through like the edges of the house, like in every wall, the lining on the floor, that's where the water was coming up first. So it started on the outside of the wall and just all seeped inward. We started off in my room, and then we went into the kitchen, and we were just like looking around to see what we could pick up from there. There wasn't really anything that we could pick up, but things like from my room that didn't fit on top of other things in my room anymore. Like we put stuff on top of my desk, on top of this like white fold out table. When things didn't fit in there, we started moving things to the kitchen and just putting it like on top of the table, on top of the counters and all that stuff. And then we went to my mom's room, and we started picking up a bunch of things from there too. Started putting it on the bed and on her desk. And then we heard things start like toppling over. We have like these plastic bins that my mom has like her stuff in, because like besides my mom's job that she has, she does like selling on eBay on the side. So she has like bins, these plastic bins of just like, you know, clothes and like certain things that she sells. So they were all stacked up, and as we all know, plastic floats. So as we were picking stuff up in my mom's room, we heard the bins from the living room start toppling over. And so we like rushed to the living room, and some bins had fallen over and like opened, and everything, like water got in and stuff like that. There was basically a lot of stuff that we were able to put up on stuff and everything, but there was also a lot of stuff that we lost, things that we just couldn't get to in time. And we have a utility area also, where it's like the washer and dryer, and that where we put like the clothes and stuff like that. And in there we had like bins of stuff too from like when I was a kid, like just memories and stuff, like old stuffed animals, my old like kids books, my old like schoolwork from like when I was like in first grade or something. Like this picture of like my hands, like my little handprints when I was like 2 years old. And since those are plastic too, those fell over as well. And yeah, that part was, I think, the hardest. It wasn't like the current stuff that like, it wasn't the current things like oh, that journal, like that journal that I had or something, you know. It was more like the stuff that affected me the most was that, like the memories and stuff, seeing like my kids' books just like literally floating around in the kitchen. It was, that part was hard for my mom and I both, because that was stuff that we had literally held on to for years and years. I'm almost 20 now, so since I was 2 years old, you know. And like even like my little like baby booties from like when I was baby. The strangest thing had actually happened like before the flood actually happened. My mom had woken me up, and because she got like the weather alert app like on her phone, she has that, and so it said that there was like a tornado warning, and we never get tornadoes here. So she woke me up and she told me though, like, you know, that there was a tornado warning for our area. And but since no tornadoes ever happen here, I wasn't too scared by it, but still I thought in my head, okay, I better, like, in case there was a tornado, you know, we, like, the safest place to go is a closet. So we agreed we would like hide in my mom's closet. And I thought, what do I need from my room that's like the valuables that I really don't want getting blown away, you know? So I went to my room and I got my camera and my laptop, and I got some money that I had there from one of my financial aid checks for college, and so I got all that stuff, and then I brought it into my mom's closet and I put it on the floor, like the floor of the closet. And then when my mom ended up saying that the flood, like when the flood started, sorry, I'm not getting any sense. Then when the flood started, when we were in my room getting stuff, I remember that I had left my valuables on. And what I mean by valuables, it's like not that the other thing doesn't have value to me, is that I know that those things would be hard to replace, like a camera and a laptop. Like I don't have the money to be able to get a new one, and to be able to do YouTube as I've been trying to do, I definitely need my laptop. I need the laptop for school and stuff like that as well. So I knew that, like, that's what I mean by valuables. Not that my other stuff isn't valuable. The stuff that would be hard to replace. So as I was in my room, I remembered that I had left that stuff on the floor, and the water had already been coming in, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I ran back to my mom's closet and I picked it up. Literally, I'm not over exaggerating this, I promise. Literally, as soon as I picked it up, the corners themselves, like the lining, like I had been talking about, had already filled up. And as soon as I picked it up, it spilled over into that area exactly where they were. Like if I had gotten there a second later, the water would have at least touched it, if not like gone inside it. But yeah, so then I was like, okay, so I'm gonna put this on top of, there was a bin and then some kind of suitcase thing and then something else. So I put it on top of there, and then I went back to helping my mom pick up like stuff off the floor. Then when we noticed in the living room that the bins started to fall, again in my head I was like, oh my gosh, I put my stuff on top of plastic stuff. So I went back into my mom's room, and as soon as, and this is what's so weird to me, and I'm assuming like the weight was holding it down, I guess, but it could only hold it for so long. So again, if I hadn't thought of it exactly when I did, as soon as I picked up my stuff, the bins fell over. And I was like, and they would have fallen into the water. So then I put it finally on top of like the top shelf in the closet, and that's where I left it. I think Ozzy's playing with the ball. we do have our two dogs, and Mitzi was sleeping on my mom's bed that night. So she was up there and she had no clue what was going on. We were stacking stuff on the bed, but not where she was, like further away from her, so she had space to just there and be sleepy. She had no clue what was going on. Ozzy, however, my bigger dog, he, like, we were all walking around in the water because by that point the water had already gotten pretty high, almost to our knees around there. And so Ozzy was also walking around in the water. My mom and I both went through, like, obviously an emotional thing while this was all happening. At the very beginning, when the water had first started coming in and I was trying to get stuff up off of the floor, I kind of was like panicking. Obviously, you know, I started panicking and I was like, I could feel it. I was like breathing heavy, and I was kind of like not screaming, but I was kind of yelling if like something would fall over, and I'd be like, no, and then I'd like pick it up, and my mom, she came over and she was like, it's okay. She's like, calm down. Like everything's like, we're gonna be fine. Like there's nothing we could do about it right now. So we just have to keep picking stuff up and we'll be fine. So that was the first step of it. At the beginning, I was going through like that, and then my mom was like calm and everything. And then later on, I knew that we had to, once I calmed down and everything, we had picked up as much as we could. We knew that now we needed to get out. Then my mom, like seeing all the stuff, I think it like finally hit her, you know, and then she started like, you know, going through that, and she kind of, how do I say, like, I don't know, I feel like it finally hit her, and then she also was kind of like obviously uneasy about it and everything like that. But I started getting like the things we needed, like we started putting like as much clothes as we could into like these bags that we were gonna take with us whenever we got wherever, because at this point we had no clue where we were going or how we were gonna get out, but we knew no matter what we'd need our clothes and we'd also need some food. So I got a bag and was starting to put some like canned foods and stuff like that. Forgot the can opener, so it didn't do much good. Oh yeah, I'm probably gonna include some like pictures and everything, probably as I'm talking. I'll probably put them like right here or something. I might, I'm not sure if I will, like when I'm describing things. I would like to, because I would want you to see exactly what I was talking about and like see for yourself exactly, because I feel like just talking about it, just describing it doesn't do it justice, I guess. Like you actually have to see it to understand what I mean when I say like it was bad. And it wasn't just obviously not just my house, it was different houses on my street, but not just on my street. This was all over the valley. Literally every single city in my area, in the valley of Texas, had a major flooding. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people were affected by this. So I feel like overwhelmed even just trying to begin to explain what happened in the weeks that followed. Well, basically, we called 911 once we got everything together because we didn't know how to get out, obviously. And so since my house is raised and it was almost up to our knee, we knew that when we got out of the house and got down onto the actual floor, it was going to be at least touching our butts or higher, you know? So we were like, you know, how are we going to get out? What are we going to do? And at this point, we didn't know if the rain was going to stop anytime soon or it was going to keep rising. And so we needed to start thinking of how we were going to get out. Mind you, when we woke up, when my mom woke me up, when it barely happened, it was about 6 in the morning. So we called 911, and they said that we should call the city. So basically turned us away, as I'm sure they did with many other calls. And they actually did, because we found out in the news later that they did. They were turning away so many calls because they didn't have time, or they were dealing with this or something. They referred us to call the city. We called the city. They didn't answer. So we called the family instead, and now it was about 9 or 10 in the morning now. So for about 3 hours, my mom and I had already been picking stuff up, making sure like the dogs were okay and everything. Ozzy was just like standing in the water, and there was nothing he could get on. And like the look on his face too, it was just so sad. Like you could tell he looked really confused, and he was like, what is going on? Mitzi still at this point had no clue. She was still asleep on the bed. The family had called and asked if we were okay, because they know we live in a flood zone. And we told them like the house, it's got completely flooded. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to get out. So my mom had been talking to my tia about like what was going on while we were still there at the house, and then my tia ended up telling my cousin about it. So then my cousin had asked, you know, they wanted to come and like help us get out, you know. So even though my cousins, they like have a truck that's actually like pretty big, they knew, and we knew, that they weren't going to be able to come all the way into like where like our yard is and stuff, because the water was pretty high. So we knew that we were gonna have to walk out into the street. And so some of the bins that we had, we decided to put like the clothes and like the food and stuff, and like float it. Once we got out, we're just gonna float the stuff down the street, so that we wouldn't have to carry like these huge bags over our shoulders and stuff, which worked well, but we had to make multiple trips. So when my cousins got here, they were pretty far down the street, and they had tried to get us like as close as they could, but I could see that water was already going into the muffler. So I said that they could like scoot up, so that way, you know, it doesn't risk like messing up their truck and stuff like that. So they scooted up a little bit more until the muffler itself was out of the water. So my mom and I walked down our street. I don't know how far it would be. Pretty much the length of just a normal street in a neighborhood, you know. So we got there, we put our first stuff up on the truck, and my cousin was helping us pick up the stuff and everything. And then we had to go back and then bring some more stuff. And then we had to go back again and get the dogs. The third trip was when we brought our dogs. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, at some point during this whole time, before my cousins got here, Mitzi, who had been on the bed, she didn't know that this was going on, so she jumped off the bed when she woke up, and she jumped into the water. She was fine. By this time, the water had receded down to like our ankles, maybe, like around there. So it had stopped raining. Sorry, I'm trying to remember everything that happened, and I'm like skipping around kind of, because I'm remembering things as I explain other things. It was around maybe 12 or 1. It was around maybe 12 when my cousins got here. So sometime between around 10 and 12, the water had like already started receding. And it got down to around our ankles. But still, when we were outside, the water was up to our butts. Yeah, because our house is raised up. So when my puppy Mitzi woke up and jumped into the water, she could stand. She was fine. If she had jumped in when the water was still at its like highest point, she would have needed to have swam. Like, we would have picked her up and put her back on the bed, because she wouldn't have been able to stand in the water. But luckily it had gone down by then, so she was fine. She was just really confused. You could see it on her face. She was like, she didn't even want to move, and then she started walking slowly, and we're like, it's okay, Mitzi. And so yeah. So then that third trip that I was talking about, going back to like once we've already like walked out and stuff like that, the third trip we had the dogs. My mom was carrying Mitzi, and I couldn't carry Ozzy because he's pretty big. Like I can't. So he couldn't stand in that water, like on all fours, and when he got to the point where we got out by the sidewalk, he couldn't stand anymore, and so he started needing to swim, but he got scared, so he stood on his hind legs and put his two paws like on my lower back, his two front paws on my lower back, and his two hind paws were walking in the water, on the floor, so that we were just walking very slowly all the way to the truck. And Ozzy barks at anyone who's not my mom and I, but especially men for some reason. It's only ever been my mom and I, so he doesn't, I don't know, he barks at guys way more than he barks at girls, but he still barks at girls. I don't know. So he was barking at my cousin, and we were like, what? Like, no, they're saving us. Can you not? So we put Mitzi up on the truck. We put Ozzy up on the truck in the back, like the truck bed, right? And then I helped my mom get up, and then I got up. And so my mom and I had been talking about it before, like we didn't know where we were gonna go exactly, and since we had our dogs with us, while we were still at the house, we were looking for places that, like hotels that we could stay at just for a night or two, or like just, you know, a couple nights, just so we could get our stuff together, you know, and like figure out what we were gonna do next. And we needed to find one that accepted dogs as well. So we went to a hotel that was nearby, and it was so crazy seeing the amount of, like, I live in a small town in the valley, and it was such a crazy sight to me. Like, as we were going down like the main road of my town, there were like cars stranded everywhere. It was crazy, and there was flooding everywhere, obviously, except like on the main road, although there were parts on the main road that were still flooded. And there were cars stranded like in parking lots, some like literally in the middle of the road that were like turned sideways somehow. So I'm assuming they couldn't drive through it and the car ended up turning. I don't know. It was scary. And like cars that were trying to go through had to like go around it, and it was crazy. It was definitely a scary sight. It literally looked like, and there weren't really cars going on the roads, like not even on the expressway or anything, because people couldn't get out from anywhere, you know? So we were the only ones, besides a few other cars, well, mainly trucks, because trucks were the only ones that could get through some of the flood areas. Ours and just a few other cars were what we were seeing on the road, and everything else, it literally looked like a ghost town. It looked like what you picture like in a post-apocalyptic setting to look like. It looked just like that. It was really scary. So then we got to the nearby hotel that we were going to be staying at, and we did everything we needed to do with checking in and everything, and then we took all our stuff upstairs and everything. And by this time it was about 1 o'clock. We had gotten up at 6 a.m. and it was now 1. We still hadn't had like anything to eat or anything. We were tired and we were hungry, but like most importantly, we just wanted to take a shower, because like we had been standing in water for 7 hours. We had been standing in water. So we just wanted to take a shower and then just relax, because we were exhausted already. We're so thankful to my cousins, because literally without them we wouldn't have been able to have gotten out, and we have no clue how we would have, and we obviously couldn't stay there, and I don't know, so we're very thankful to them. And then so as we were there, once I showered and everything, I was like, oh gosh, like everyone, all my friends, like no one knew that this had happened. So I was just like laying there on the bed, and I decided to send like an audio recording to like the group chat that we had. The audio recording was literally like almost 30 minutes. It was almost 30 minutes long, and I was explaining pretty much everything that I just explained to you guys. But obviously it was like right after it happened, so I was a lot more emotional. And it still affects me now, but like now I can, it's been a month, I can talk about it and not get so choked up about it. Whereas then, like right after it happened, I definitely was. Once I sent it, then obviously it took everyone a whole another half hour to listen to it. So, because I didn't even realize that that it had been that long. I didn't know that I had been talking for that long. But so one of the bags that I had brought, I brought my backpack, and I packed it with like the stuff that I knew for sure we were gonna need. Like, I put my mom's phone and my phone in like a plastic Ziploc bag, and I put them in there. I put like our phone chargers, my laptop. I left my camera in the closet up there because I was like, I'm not gonna, it's safe up there. I'm not gonna need it at the hotel. Whereas the laptop, I knew we would, because we were gonna have to start looking into applying for FEMA and everything. So I brought the laptop charger, phone charger. I brought the money that was from my financial aid, because I was like, even though financial aid you're supposed to use for college, I was like, we don't have the money to be, like, this obviously wasn't expected. We don't have the money for this right now. So I knew I was gonna have to spend the financial aid towards things we needed, like obviously food, and food for the dogs as well, because I packed bags of like dog kibble, but I knew we were gonna run out eventually, Then once everyone like listened to things, everyone was obviously saying that they were sorry that happened, and they were being so supportive, and it helped so much to have everyone, like everyone was saying, like, if you need anything, let us know, and what kind of stuff do you need, and thank you. I am so thankful for my friends and for my family and everything like that. I'll insert later, I think it's going to be at the end, yesterday I wrote this, this basically a thank you letter to everyone who was involved in helping us this past month, in every single way possible, whether it be like a financial donation, or like that emotional support that we needed, or people donated their time and like effort into helping us get places, and they donated resources, and it's so much. We got so much help, and we are so lucky and so thankful for that. Thanks to our family and our friends, and even complete strangers, volunteers who came over and helped us and stuff, but I'll get into that later. Then while I was there, John had messaged saying like what we needed, and he wanted to bring groceries. So then John was saying that he would get the groceries, pick up Kendra, and then come over to the hotel. John bought a lot of groceries for us, which helped so much. And then he picked up Kendra, and then they both came over to the hotel. They were able to get through, because I know one part down the road was still kind of flooded, so we weren't sure if they were going to even be able to get through. But from where I went to the edge of like the road there, and I was looking at both sides, and I didn't see any water that was there anymore. This was the same day. So I thought like it was fine. So then they were able to get through. And then so they brought up like the groceries and stuff, and it helped so much because we literally had no food there at the hotel. And so we were able to eat from that. So they ended up staying a while, and then Kendra's dad was gonna pick him up later that night. No, we had said that it was fine that they could sleep over, right? Because there were 2 beds in the room, so I was like, okay, I'll sleep in my mom's bed, and then they can sleep in the other bed. So, so they had planned to spend the night there, so they did. There was a Whataburger next door. It wasn't that far, and we just went and like sat there, and they were just like hearing me out, and we had talked about stuff, and we are thinking about like what we were gonna do next and stuff. But they also helped me like kind of breathe and just like forget about what was going on for a second, and just relax, you know what I mean? And so thank you so much to them as well. That helped a lot. I really needed that. And like while they were there, and like, well, while all this was happening, I hadn't let myself like feel it yet, you know, like I hadn't let myself like cried really hard about it. I had cried some. I knew that I was gonna get to a point where I was gonna like cry, and I had kind of like, you know, hadn't gotten to that point yet. So yeah, and then we ended up staying. My mom and I ended up staying 3 nights, because we were trying to figure out everything of what we were gonna do, and figure out arrangements of like where we were gonna stay, where we could have the dogs be, all that stuff. And so after everything there, my mom this whole time was trying to apply for FEMA, but the whole thing with FEMA is really complicated, because I don't know if anyone watching has ever had to deal with FEMA, but it's a very complicated process. First, at a city level, it needs to be declared like a disaster. Then it goes up to state level. Then the governor needs to declare it as a state, like as a disaster, right? And then from there it goes to the president, who then has to approve that it is a national disaster. Since thousands of houses here got flooded, we thought like for sure this is going to be declared like right away as a national natural disaster. Literally thousands of homes got flooded, all over the valley. But it took forever. It just got declared like maybe a week ago, like 3 weeks after the flood happened, and it barely got declared. So my mom had been trying the whole time to like apply, and it would send her through the application, like she had to apply, and then it would say that it wasn't declared a national disaster yet, so she could call this number. She called that number, and they told her to call a different number. She called that number, they told her to call the city. She called the city, talked to someone there. They said, it has been declared. We don't know why the application's not working. So she went again. She applied again, called this number, called that number, called that number. Oh, I guess it hasn't. It was a whole process. It's very complicated. Basically, we couldn't apply for FEMA until the president declared it. So we were like, when? When is he gonna do it? Because there's like, on a like more serious note, there were so many people here. My mom and I were so lucky to have our friends and family and volunteers and stuff help us. But some people here don't have family here, or like didn't have a way to get out of their homes. And some people were even living in their homes as like mold was starting to grow inside the homes, because my mom and I got out, and then we ended up, once we were at the hotel, after we stayed at my tia's house, and we would go check on the house and see what else we could get out at certain points. Mold was starting to grow on the walls, and we were like, oh my gosh, there's no way that people could live here, you know? And the smell was so strong and so bad. Like, I'm never gonna forget how that smelled. It was terrible. And if I pray that none of you watching have ever been through that, but if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like, it's awful. It's awful. And we needed to get those, like, I think they're called N95 masks. And so they're like the only, like, you need that level or higher to be able, like, it filters, it doesn't let the mold, like, it doesn't let you breathe in the mold. So we had to go buy those masks, and we would go inside the house. The smell, like you could smell it so strong even with the mask. It was awful. And there were people that you would see like on the news who were still living in their homes with that smell, and like it's not safe for your health and everything. And it was just crazy to us that this took so long, because there's people who didn't have a form of transportation. There's people who didn't have family and friends to help them, and they're just living in their homes, and it's still like that, and it's terrible. Also, our car got completely totaled. The water got into the engine, and there was nothing they could do about it. My tia and my tío both, they were helping so much. They opened up their home to us. They let us eat of their food, like wash our clothes there, take showers there. They had a room for us to stay in. She would like take us to wherever we needed to go, whether it be to like the American Legion area to apply for like the help or something, or to go to different churches where they were handing out like packages of water bottles and cleaning supplies and like Red Cross and stuff like that. She helped us so much. So we thank them so much for everything that they did as well, because we don't know where we'd be without them. Again, I'm gonna insert the thank you letter probably at the end, and it's what I wrote yesterday, since yesterday was the 1 month like anniversary of like since it happened. I wrote a thank you letter to like everyone that was involved in helping us in every way possible. And then also, once, like when we were still at the hotel, Violet had asked me if I would be okay with opening like a GoFundMe. And like my mom and I are not ones to ask for handouts and stuff like that. We don't like to do that. We don't want to inconvenience people and stuff. So obviously this whole thing was really hard for us, because we had no choice but to rely on other people to be able to go somewhere, or you know what I mean? Like, we didn't want to be an inconvenience to anyone, so we didn't want to ask for money either. But at this point, we both knew we would need some help to be able to continue, you know? So putting our not wanting to ask for money and stuff aside, we knew that we kind of needed to. So I was like saying that yes, it was okay. She wrote it like, she handled so much of everything that was going on with that. Like, she wrote it from her perspective as well. Like, she said, my best friend needs a home, and like she was saying that this, like, all this stuff happened, that her house got flooded and all this stuff, and she handled everything having to do with it, because she knew my mom and I were going and dealing with so much other stuff. But as people were donating, she would like thank them and stuff like that, and she did so incredibly much. And she was constantly sending like stuff from the news, that like people who are giving out like stuff for flood victims. She let us know so much information, as well as other family members too, who had like, everyone was sending things of like, people are giving out stuff over here for flood victims, and here's where you can apply for this if you're a flood victim. And it was definitely a lot, but it helped so much, because if we hadn't gotten any of those things, we probably wouldn't have heard about certain things, and we wouldn't have been able to go and get the stuff that we needed, like cleaning supplies and water bottles, and gone over and like applied for certain things, like help for flood victims. So we thank you so much for everyone who did that as well. And also Violet, like a huge thank you to Violet as well, because she handled everything with the GoFundMe. And later on, she donated herself. Her mom even donated. They gave us like the bed sheets that we needed. She gave us like pillows, some like stuff, like necessities that we needed. So that was really, really nice of them as well. And then all throughout this time, family and friends were calling and checking up on us all the time. and we were like so thankful for that. Like it was such an incredible thing to see, like when you see how much people, because like obviously you know your friends and family care about you, but it's like one thing to know it and then another thing to like see it like so intensely, where like they call and then they ask how you're doing and they ask what else they can do, and like don't hesitate to call them and stuff like that. And that was like a super super heartwarming thing. And we would update everyone on like what we were doing, what we had done, what our next step we thought was going to be, and all that kind of stuff. So again, thank you to everyone who called and like checked up on us and were offering their emotional support, financial support, support, donating things, and like anything. Thank you so much. And I've already thanked all these people. I wrote like the thank you letter and everything. I've thanked everyone. You'll see who all was included in that. But in case any of y'all are watching now, again, thank you. We're almost going on an hour. Wow. Yeah, it's a long story, to say the least. Okay, so going back to when I was at my tia's house now, we decided that, like, we obviously knew we weren't going to be able to live in our house, and we had no clue when FEMA was going to finally come, and we didn't know how much help we were going to get, and we didn't know when it would even be ready to live in again after, like, it was fixed and stuff like that, if it even was fixed. So we knew that for sure we obviously couldn't keep staying at my tia's house, because, and like they were so sweet about it too, like my tia and my tio, like my tia was saying that like it's not an inconvenience, and so she was saying that we could stay as long as we wanted. But my mom and I knew, like, we're obviously disrupting their everyday routine, and we're eating the food that they have there, and we're using up the water, and we're washing our clothes, and we knew that you know, there's only so long that we can stay here. And even if she said it was fine, my mom and I still didn't want to inconvenience her in any way. So so we decided to look for an apartment. The process of looking for an apartment was like absolute torture. We had to obviously look at the price of them, because we can't afford too much. We needed to find one that accepted dogs, and so many of them that we looked at, they accepted one dog, or they accepted 2 dogs that needed to be under 25 pounds, and Ozzy is a bigger dog, so there was just so many of them didn't accept us because of that. Then there were others who didn't accept, like, there were just so many things. It was so difficult to find an apartment that was willing to like work with us. It took forever, and it was constantly like waking up early, and my tia would drive us around and into the next city over. We were looking in our city and the next city over, because we knew that we would have to be coming back and forth to the house to be like checking on it, cleaning stuff out, so it wouldn't make sense to move really far away. Like, I live kind of far from the college that I go to, so an idea that we had debated on was like, we're wondering, should we just move over there, you know, and then I'll be closer to school for when it's time to go back. We decided to find an apartment that's around here, so that we would be able to go back and forth to the house easily whenever we needed to either get stuff out, or when FEMA was gonna finally come. At that point, we still didn't know whether it was gonna even be declared or not. Everything was kind of like depending on each other. Like, it was a lot. Finally, we found one that was willing to accept both our dogs, and they actually had a promotion going on, which was like perfect. It was gonna be a 6-month lease rather than a year lease. So we knew that was like perfect for us, because a 6-month lease is not as big of a commitment as like a year lease. So we we were so thankful for that, because we're thinking within 6 months we'll be able to like fix up the house and stuff like that. And there's still so much like we're unsure of, because like my family knows that that's a flood zone. We know that that's a flood zone. They were saying that they don't suggest that like we stay there, because what if it happens again? My mom and I thought about it and stuff, but my mom only has like a few more years to go until she's able to retire, and so she feels like it's too late to be trying to pay a mortgage on like a new house if we decide to move somewhere else. She thinks it's too late to be like starting over with that, you know. And obviously that would mean that she couldn't retire, because she wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage on the retirement check, you know. So we're still going back and forth on a lot of things. We're gonna see, I guess, what we're gonna do, but I think for now it's looking like we're gonna move back into the house. Yeah, I think. Well, like once the lease is over and once like everything's been fixed. So once we decided on this apartment, that's where I am now. You could tell it wasn't what you had seen before. Oh, then my Theo, he was such a huge help in this too. He lent us his truck because he knew we were going to be having to move stuff from the house that we could save over here to the apartment. And like he was there like working on the yard too, and he like cut the grass and he like trimmed the trees and stuff like that. He was such a huge help, and he helped us. Like people were donating stuff too. Like my cousin donated a sofa. My other cousin offered to donate her sofa, and then my Theo, he ended up bringing 2 mattresses, one for my room and one for my mom's room. Yeah, it was just like such a great help. So thank you so much, Theo. I know you're probably not watching this, but thank you so much to him. The whole thing, it was since it took us a while to be able to go back to the house, because we were trying to figure everything else out with like applying places, going places, and picking up stuff and applying for things, and looking for an apartment. We hadn't gotten a chance to actually go into the house and start taking stuff out. So the water was gone already, but there was like the carpets were still wet, and the mold was already like growing on the walls like really bad. Even the stuff that we were able to pick up off the floor and like put on top of the desk or on top of the table and like stuff like that, you could feel like it was very humid inside the house, because we weren't there to be able to let it like vent and stuff. So it basically created like a super humid zone, and even stuff that didn't get wet, you could already feel like I had like this folder, like this paper folder that was there, and like I touched it and you could feel that it was like damp. Like you could feel that it was damp from the humidity and stuff, and it was already like not wilting, you know what I mean? But yeah, so a lot of the stuff that even we were able to save from the very beginning, we ended up having to throw out because we couldn't get to it in time and get it out in time. So then later on, cut to a bit later, my cousin's church that he goes to, they were having like a disaster relief volunteer group go to, like they had different groups and they were going to different houses all over, and they put us on the list of people that they were gonna go to. So then the group finally came, and I'm trying to simplify this as much as possible. Even with that, it's been an hour and 9 minutes. I'm skipping over like a lot of details, but I'm just trying to pack it all into this one video. I don't know how long it's gonna be. Currently it's an hour and 9 minutes. I'm probably gonna edit it down quite a bit if I can. I don't know. So that group came and they helped us, and they were such incredibly nice people. My mom and I were there too, and we were obviously helping them and stuff. And we all went in, and we all had our masks on and our gloves on, and we started taking out stuff that was trash. We started putting stuff in like the truck that my Theo had lent us that we knew we were gonna bring back here to the apartment. We were doing like all of that. We were going just back and forth with everything. They started cutting the drywall, and they cut the drywall like a pretty high amount because apparently wherever the water line was, which was almost to our knees, you're supposed to cut 2 feet above that, apparently. So it got up pretty high. If I were standing, well, probably if you can see there where the whiteboard is in the back, it got probably up to right there, right either above or below the light switch that's right there. I think they cut like right above that, all on every single wall in the house. And so they were doing that. It was like a 2-day process, but I was like mind blown at how fast they could work, and like all together as like a group. It was like amazing to watch. Like obviously we were helping too, but as you would see them, like they would tear out, either they took off like the carpet, they tore off the drywall, they would put it in a wheelbarrow until that got filled, and then they would wheel it out to like the edge of the road, and they would just dump it there. And like I'll start putting pictures of like what I'm talking about, I guess, and you'll see like the piles of stuff. It was insane. We had to toss out the refrigerator, certain like the dresser and the dresser drawers and all that stuff, and bags, and we filled bags and bags and bags of stuff that we weren't able to keep. And you'll see like how big the pile actually is. Yeah, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. So we had to separate it into like one pile on this side that was like items and stuff like that, and the other side was like the drywall and like the carpet and like that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of what else has happened since then. There's honestly been so much. Like it's been crazy, and even trying to remember everything that happened now, like I can't. I know I left so much out, but all throughout this time, the main reason, I guess, why I'm explaining this, well, for 2 reasons, I guess. One of them being, we obviously haven't posted in a while. This has been why. We weren't able to post because, and we have some videos saved up already. So you'll see this video going up first, and then you'll see another video that we had from like February or like around there. It was, yeah. So, and then we have more videos to show you, and we'll just keep going from there. We have some vlogs and a challenge video as well that we have, and so yeah, you'll see that next week. Oh, the second reason is that I want to address, you'll see it when I include the thank you letter at the end. If you would please read it in full, it would mean so much to me, because if you just read part of it, it's like, it's not gonna have, like, it's not gonna make sense. So I go through talking about what our month consisted of, and then I say, but even though, and that's the message I want to put out here, is that even though what happened to us was really bad and we had it really bad, we know other people out there had it so much worse. So I'm a very, very positive person, and this whole thing that happened definitely tested me with that, but I managed to, with every single situation that we encountered that was like, this really sucks, I managed to find the positive in it. And so I mentioned that in the letter too, and that's the message that I want to put out to everyone watching. If you made it this far, thank you so much, by the way. That's the main message that I want to put out, is that there's positives in everything, and it all depends on how you see it. With my faith and everything, I know that this all happened for a reason. I believe in God, and I believe that God had this plan for us, and even though it didn't make sense at the time, we know that something better is coming later. My mom and I both, like, we remained faithful during this time, and we know everything's gonna be okay. And as of right now, we're doing better, and finally got the Wi-Fi set up here, so finally we'll be able to get back to doing this, which is what I love to do. We're gonna hopefully start posting a lot more consistently, Kendra and I. The next video you see will be with Kendra and actually Vala too. And then the other videos after that, you're gonna be seeing everyone. I mean, I guess that's it. Right now, we're fine. That's the most important thing as well. Even though we lost a lot of stuff, we're so thankful that my mom's okay, I'm okay, the dogs are okay. Everything, like, those are the main things that we care about. Even though it sucks that we lost a lot of, like, things that had memories or that meant stuff to us, you know, or stuff that we've had for such a long time, we're still so grateful that nothing happened to any one of us, and we had our family and friends and volunteers and stuff to support us. The volunteers as well, they were such an incredible help, and I doubt any of them are watching this, but thank you so much for everything that you all did. There were people who were in that volunteer group that actually came from out of state, and it was so, like, wow, like, these people gave up their summer, gave up their time to come over and to a place that they've never been and work hard labor in, like, this hot sun, and the temperature out here is unbelievable, especially during the summer. And they did all that, and I had a moment when we were there at the house, and I was seeing them tear off, like, the drywall and stuff like that, and I had to take a minute to step out into the yard, because I've only ever lived at that house, like, I'm almost 20. Basically seeing that place, my home, you know, being torn up like that, and, like, just stuff all over the floor, the carpet ripped off, like, it was hard. It was really hard, and it got overwhelming for me, and just, you know, realizing the magnitude of what was going on, you know, like, my house was being torn apart, so I had to step out, and I went, like, into the yard, like, kind of, like, behind a tree, because I didn't want anyone to see me, but I started crying, and one of the ladies that was helping, her name is Jean. I'll never forget that group of people. But Jean saw me crying, and she walked over to me, and she, like, took off her mask and took off her gloves and everything, and she's like, "Can I hug you?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And she gave me, like, the tightest hug, and I, like, broke down. I broke down so hard, and I was crying so hard, and she just started praying for me, and as she started praying for me, I, like, felt, like, just calmness, like, just, it's weird to explain, but I just felt, I had been crying so hard, and all of a sudden just calmness just, like, washed over me, and I was able to just breathe, and I was still crying, but still, like, I felt calmer. She said such a beautiful prayer, and she was saying, I could never repeat it, but it was beautiful, and I thank that whole group and her, like, so much for that. And then another woman saw that I had been crying, and she walked over and she gave me a hug too, and they were talking to me about it, and they were saying that it, like, they totally understand that, and she was saying that it's perfectly okay to cry, and that I could cry as much as I wanted to, because she said And she said, you all can take as many breaks as you need to as well, like my mom and I. She's like, because you're not only dealing with like the physical labor of this, but you're also dealing with all the emotional aspect of seeing your home ripped apart, you know. They were such incredible people, and I'll never forget them. My mom and I both are never gonna forget them. And they came from out of state, a lot of them, and I really wish that I could somehow find them, like contact them, and I don't know, one day I will contact them and I will thank them for everything that they did. I thanked them there, but later, once this whole thing has been moved on from and everything, and we're back to normal, then I'll contact them. Thank you so much to them, even though I'm sure they're not watching. Yeah, so as of right now, we are living in the new apartment. We have a 6-month lease. I think that's pretty much it. We finally got the Wi-Fi back up, and for a long time it felt like we were never gonna get back to normal, but slowly things are feeling a little bit better. Like every day it gets a little bit better, and with the help of family and friends, we're starting to feel somewhat like normal again. And even just like doing this, like filming YouTube videos again, it's helped a lot because this is like what I love to do, and it definitely feels good to be filming again. Like we had gone, well, you'll see it in a vlog later, but our huge friend group got together and we vlogged it, so you'll see that. And that was, it felt so good to be vlogging again. But anyways, yeah, so that's where we're at. If I remember anything later, maybe like while I'm editing or something, I'll probably film like a short clip like mentioning something, in which case you'll probably already have seen that. I'll probably include maybe some more pictures here if I haven't included them already, and right at the end here I'm going to include the letter that I wrote, and please read it in full if you can. I guess that's it. Thank you all so much. Thank you guys so much for listening to this. If you made it all the way to the end, wow. Thank you so much. Really, it means a lot. And yeah, just wanted to film this like update video so you know like what's happened, what's been going on, because Kendra and I said from the very beginning, when we decided to make a channel, we wanted to be 100% real with you guys all the time, and we wanted to make sure that our channel was a very like positive place, and which I'm hoping this is what this video did, even though it's talking about a subject that is definitely hard to talk about, and it's definitely sad to talk about. The message behind it is like still a positive one. Alright, well, I think that's all I have to say. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time with a much happier video. Okay, we're gonna get back to our normal like happy goofy vlogs and challenges and stuff. Okay, so thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time. Peace and good vibes.